Welcome to today's explainer. We're going to completely shatter those cinematic illusions you probably have about the dark entertainment backbone of the Roman Empire. Get ready, because the historical reality, it's far more fascinating and honestly, way more calculating than anything you've ever seen on the big screen. So what exactly do you picture when you hear the word gladiator? I bet you're picturing exactly what centuries of art and modern cinema have conditioned us to see, right? A desperate warrior battling it out in the sun-drenched sands of the Colosseum in a chaotic, bloody fight to the death, while a roaring crowd demands slaughter. But as we'll see today, we need to completely rethink that image. Let's kick things off with Section 1, the Hollywood myth, fiction versus reality. See, there's just a massive gap between what we see on screen and what was actually happening in ancient Rome. We tend to focus entirely on the dramatic clashes and the sheer spectacle of the arena, but by doing that, we're completely blind to the reality of the industry running the whole show. We're not talking about random chaotic bloodbaths where disposable slaves just fought for sheer survival. No, we're talking about a complex, brutal, and highly organized business model. Which brings us to Section 2, Rome's PR machine, calculated violence. The true motivation behind all this bloodshed might actually surprise you. The gladiatorial games were never just about random violence. They were, at their core, a highly sophisticated public relations machine. Emperors and politicians utilized these massive spectacles to maintain order in the empire. By providing this extravagant, dark entertainment, they were quite literally buying the loyalty of the masses. It was a constant, carefully managed display of Rome's immense power, broadcast directly to the citizens through entertainment. Moving right along to Section 3, the business of blood, sports franchises. Gladiators were actually highly trained specialists. They lived and trained in specialized schools known as ludi, and these were managed by a lanista. Think of the lanista as the owner of the school. They functioned exactly like a modern-day sports agent and promoter combined. They were the ones out there scouting, training, and managing the careers of these fighters. Okay, here's the massive plot twist that destroys the biggest myth of all. Death was actually bad for business. Because the lanista invested so heavily in training, housing, and promoting their fighters, the actual death of a gladiator was a major financial loss. So, contrary to popular belief, a lot of matches deliberately did not end in death. I mean, you don't just throw away your most valuable financial assets in every single match, right? Let's look a little closer at that in Section 4. Elite athletes, valuable assets. The reality is that gladiators were the elite athletes of their day. First off, they were fed a specific high-calorie diet, often heavy in barley and beans, just to build a protective layer of fat. Second, and perhaps most shockingly, they received medical care that was significantly better than what your average Roman citizen would ever get. Why? Well, because you protect your investments. And third, they were meticulously trained in very specific theatrical combat styles. When a gladiator stepped into the arena, they were essentially performing a role. A fighter armed with a net and trident, for example, would be deliberately matched against a heavily armored swordsman. The lanistas did this intentionally to ensure matches were perfectly balanced. It was highly theatrical combat, designed to put on a spectacular show and absolutely thrill the spectators who had showed up expecting high-stakes drama. And that leads us right into Section 5, the social paradox, bizarre contradiction. Because they survived multiple matches and put on such incredible theatrical displays, the top-tier fighters became the absolute celebrity superstars of the ancient world. Just let that sink in for a second. They were completely adored by the public, their names were widely celebrated, and their faces were literally drawn into Roman graffiti by their fans. They had an absolute grip on the public imagination. And this creates a really profound paradox. On one hand, by law and social standing, they were total outcasts, literally at the very bottom of the Roman hierarchy, often legally classified right alongside the lowest of the low. Yet simultaneously, they were revered idols. They functioned as celebrated superstars who captivated those at the very top of society. It was a completely strange, paradoxical status that's honestly almost hard for us to fully wrap our heads around today. Ultimately, when we zoom out and look at this entire system, the lanistas, the ludi, the carefully balanced theatrical combat, the high-calorie diets, and that immense celebrity, we see the grand trade-off of the Roman Empire. The whole gladiator spectacle was this dark, calculated arena where the life, the sweat, and the blood of the individual were systematically traded to guarantee the political stability and order of the entire state. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought. We've explored the truth behind the ancient PR machine, the intense business of the arena, and the whole paradox of Roman celebrity. But looking at our own highly structured celebrity culture, our intense sports franchises, and our endless appetite for entertainment, what are the modern equivalents of the Colosseum? Just think about that the next time you tune in to watch a spectacle. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I hope this completely changed how you view the ancient world.